we are going back to the old style of movie review today because I had a day at the movies where I saw 4.5 movies back to back, and I'm going to review them all for you. Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Katrina and I make bookish content here on this channel every week, and then movie reviews just like this one here at the weekend. All of my movie reviews are spoiler free, and I will leave a playlist of my recent reviews linked up above in case you are looking for something to watch this week. So yes, I will leave timestamps to everything I'm going to talk about in the description box below, and so this is going to be not four, because one of these was an older movie and one was a rewatch, so just kind of talking a little bit about each movie. I will be as quick and concise as I can do whilst being spoiler free. So the first movie I saw was Snow White, which is part of the Disney 100th anniversary, so I'm not going to review that for you, but I will tell you it was a private screening, and that was absolutely fabulous. So the second movie I saw was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, back in the day, I was a big fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We're talking like, when I was 6, I had the jeans and I had the t-shirt and I had the lunchbox and I had all the stuff. And we went to Blackpool Illuminations to specifically see the Turtles and the My Little Pony lights, and then one of them was out and I freaked out, and I was a big Turtles fan, and I did wear my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Now Fits Me t-shirt, not that original one, to go and watch this movie. That's how excited I was. Now, I was in the theatre with a lot of kids, which I sort of hadn't clocked that it was just a kids movie, but the first thing that I'm kind of like about this movie is that it did end in a sort of like Marvel style way. Now, again, not talking about the ending, it's not a spoiler, but ended in that Marvel style way of like, we've got a little like mid-credits scene where it's obvious that there's going to be another film. And that kind of annoyed me a little bit because I was like, this is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film. But actually, no, it's not, apparently. So that was a little bit like, This one had a Guy Fieri joke in it, which if you've seen my review of 80 for Brady, you will know that kind of like turned 80 for Brady from being like a hate watch into being like, oh, this is an okay kind of film, to me. Now, the animation style is obviously quite unique and quite different, and you'll have seen from the trailers that this one, has a very sort of unique, doing its own thing. The other thing that I liked about this film was that it does feel like actual teenagers playing the Turtles as opposed to adults voicing animated characters playing the Turtles. And so that was cool. And the Turtles themselves were like actually different sizes, like for teenage turtles who are the same age would be, which was really cool as well. Like it's little details like that I did appreciate in the film, like the kind of like, yes, they're actually teenagers, so like wanting to go out and rebel, not just being like, we have to go out and save the city, but wanting to go out and be teenagers, only wanting to eat pizza, wanting their privacy, getting into bed at night and being on their like phone, Switch, iPad, whatever. And that was really cool. And then the other thing was that sort of stayed true to the roots was that they wanted to go to school as well. They'd like seen high school in movies and they wanted to go to school and be like actual teenagers. And I thought that was really cool. And then April in this film she's very different from the April in the, yellow jumpsuit type of cartoons. And I loved April in this movie. And so if there is another movie, I'm going back specifically to see what kick-ass things April's going to do, because that was really cool. The villains in this one are quite familiar. However, we don't sort of see the villain Shredder in this one. However, his name does pop up. And then Splinter gets a bit of a backstory, which was really cool as well. I like the fact that Splinter got a bit of a backstory. But I think that they have tried to piggyback on the Marvel thing a little bit, and so it was just a bit like, it was fine. Do you need to pay your cinema going money to go and see this one? Not really. However, there were a lot of children in the film, and they did sit there and were fairly well behaved. There wasn't a lot of, trips out to the toilet and things like that. So then the next film I saw was The Meg 2, which is one of those films that I walked out of. I will tell you why I walked out of it. It was just really boring, and it just was going sort of nowhere. The acting was very wooden. Jason Statham is better than that. And the first Meg film was a surprise. I enjoyed this film for me, which I didn't sort of go into it necessarily expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, but it had plenty of action. It was a longer film, but it didn't feel like a longer film. If I can find that review, I will link it up above. But the Meg 2, it wasn't great. And yeah, I was just generally bored. I didn't think that the CGI was particularly good and the acting was really wooden, and so I just wasn't invested enough to find out what happened and to care about what happened. So that's my kind of review of the Meg 2. Definitely don't pay your cinema going money to go and see this one. So because I had a window then, I left that one, and it had been 90 minutes, the allotted time, and so I went and rewatched Barbie, which was cool because I've obviously watched it for the first time. I made my Barbie versus Oppenheimer video. I will leave that linked up above. I am going to talk about Oppenheimer in IMAX as well once I finish talking about Barbie again. And this was, it was good to watch it again because I'd seen all the response to it online and was able to watch things that included spoilers, and had just enjoyed watching the response online and seeing people's different interpretation of the feminist message. I'd seen interviews with the cast, and it was interesting going back and rewatching it, having seen that again. It was also fun because obviously all over TikTok the songs play, and so the songs are kind of stuck in my head. So I was kind of sat there watching the Barbie movie and sort of almost singing along in my head, like mouthing away to myself, a bit like when I was watching Snow White in a cinema by myself. But this was in a full cinema again, which was interesting because the first time I saw Barbie, it was in a completely full cinema and I was pretty much front row. And this time it was in a full cinema, and there were people in those two front rows. There's an aisle in this particular cinema that I was in that separates like the main body of seats from the ones on the floor, those two front rows, which people don't tend to sit in. And yeah, it was good doing a rewatch. I think I wouldn't necessarily have rewatched off my own back had I not had this like window between like that film and my next film. In the cinema, I probably would have rewatched at home, but it definitely benefited from a rewatch. And having seen all the online response and watched the reviews and watched the interviews, it was interesting going in with that different perspective and going, oh yeah, I noticed that, and oh yeah, I noticed that. And there were other Barbies that I noticed that I had and things like that as well. And it's so funny because I think when I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, I had magic earring Ken, but I didn't. I had magic earring Barbie, who had like a leather dress with the mesh and the magic earring and the hair. And that was interesting. And then I've seen somebody online show that they had the midge and the doctor thing that came with the midge. And I was like, yes, I remember all of this. And Midge had an Alan because Midge was married to Alan. Oh, it was a whole thing. So I'm glad that I walked out of the Meg and went and rewatched Barbie instead. I definitely made the better choice there and had a good time and was able to watch it from start to finish as well. Audience in that one, less well behaved than the audience the first time I watched it. There were children in it who did go to the toilet multiple times. 2 sets of people left during America Ferrera's big speech. I was like, no, this is disrespectful. But people clapped at the end. So very different audience again. And yes, sort of speaking on that Barbie versus Oppenheimer thing, I did go and watch Oppenheimer in IMAX. So it was a rewatch for me, and it was I wanted to see this in IMAX, and it was brilliant rewatching it. Highly, highly recommend. And if it is still playing near you in IMAX, please go and watch it in IMAX, because like it was mind blowing, the difference, and seeing it just on that size of screen as a rewatch as well. Like, I would have liked to have seen it in IMAX the first time. Yes, absolutely. But rewatching it and looking out for those details. And again, I've seen people online since say the first scene or the first two scenes of the movie make so much more sense and have so much more of an impact when you're rewatching, having seen the last couple of scenes, well, having seen the whole thing, but having watched the movie in its entirety, to then go back to the beginning and watch the first couple of scenes. Do you ever do that, where you finish a show and you go back and you watch the beginning again? Or I've done it where I've read a book and I get to the end, and having read that final chapter, I have to go and read the first couple of chapters, because it just has a deeper impact and hits different. So yeah, again, I would pay to see Oppenheimer again over Turtles, over the Meg. Not necessarily over watching Snow White in cinemas, because that was special. I was like, oh, this is how it was viewed when it came out in 1937. This is fun. But yeah, I would rewatch Oppenheimer again before rewatching Barbie again. Again, I feel like such a bad feminist saying this, but like, the Barbie film is great, but Oppenheimer on the big screen, it's something else. And then finally, my favourite film of the day. I'm calling it, I'm saying it. This one is definitely one I recommend paying your cinema going money to go and see. I've left the best till last. I watched Gran Tourismo. Now, this is the only film of the day to make me cry. And you know, I like films that make me react. I laughed out loud at Turtles. I laughed out loud at Barbie. I didn't react at all to the Meg 2. And I sang along with Snow White. So make what you will of that. Gran Turismo is, I did not know, based on an entirely true story. So you might think from the title / the trailers, it's just a film based on the game. It is not. It is a film about somebody who got very good at playing Gran Turismo and was very passionate about it and wanted to go into motorsport anyway, who gets selected in an online contest that he plays through his gaming place in Cardiff, and to go to the Gran Turismo Academy here in Northampton to race against others in real life to become a member of the Nissan team, like racing actual cars. Now, on paper, it doesn't necessarily sound like a me movie, but historically, we know I like a sports underdog story, and this is a bit of a sports underdog story. It's also about a 19-year-old pursuing their dreams, and I spend like all day, every day, telling young people that they can do it and they can pursue their dreams and they can be what they want to be. And so that element for me was really important, and I really enjoyed that. I will say a down point for me, which I didn't think was going to be a down point for me, was Orlando Bloom. Like, I think the character that he was playing was a specific character and was like a little bit greasy, a little bit like underhand, like only in it for the media. But his acting was really quite wooden. But I tell you who absolutely shone for me was David Harbour. Now, David Harbour, I have experience of him from the Black Widow film. I know that he's with Lily Allen, and I know that he's in Stranger Things, and that's kind of my experience of David Harbour. But David Harbour in this film, absolutely fantastic. He's such a good, like, that mentor character, that like Mr. Miyagi type of character, but he's like a character in his own right as well. He's quite complex, and I really, really like that. Obviously this film can be quite loud, but I think it would be interesting if you ended up being able to see this film in Dolby, because I reckon that the sound editing would be really interesting to listen to. But yeah, I cried. Not just once either. This film, emotions ran high. It was dramatic. I was like this at one point, and I laughed and I cried and I like rooted for the team and like championed that underdog, and I was with David Harbour all the way as well. And it was my favourite film of the day. And that's me having like rewatched Barbie as well. Again, I feel like a bad feminist. But yeah, I just really, really enjoyed it. I feel like, yes, it can get dramatic at times, but it could be a good film to watch kind of with the family. It would be an interesting film to watch with people who were like into motorsport versus not into motorsport. Jerry Halliwell Horner, I don't know which she goes by, was in it as well, which I thought was really interesting because obviously she's involved in the motorsport industry, but she's also Jerry Halliwell. She's a Spice Girl. And I thought she was really good as well. I think that she's not, I don't think she's in the trailers. And so I was like, oh, it's her. All right then. Okay. And again, it was on the longer side, but the audience were really well behaved. It was a limitless screening, so it's people that go to cinemas all the time, and they kind of, you could kind of feel that like shared tension when, you know, it was at a dramatic point, or like that shared sadness. And then to find out that it's fully based on a true story, I was like, wow, this film just like keeps giving. Like, I want to take someone to go and watch it and kind of watch them watching it, because I really did enjoy it and it was my favourite film of the day. So should you pay your cinema going money to go and see this one, I think it would make for a really good like afternoon, evening out, because it would give people some discussion. And I think the length of the film and the budget that's gone into the film, I think it's good value for money as well. And like I say, David Harbour was excellent, and knowing that it's a biopic, that it's based on a real life story, I think it's really great. So yeah, hard recommend from me. As always, if there is a particular movie you want to hear my thoughts on, please do let me know in the comments. I am very aware that you are probably expecting a Haunted Mansion review from me this week, but I haven't been able to go and see it yet. I'm hopefully going to see it between now and next week's movie review, so that's what you've got to look forward to. Make sure you are subscribed and hit that notification bell to see what I think of my favourite ride being made into a film again. I will leave my review of Muppets Haunted Mansion in the end screen for you. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you with my next one. Thanks for watching.